Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be having some fun with dates. All right, so what I've done is I have, and you may or may not know this, but let's do this first. Let's delete this so you guys can see this. All right, so what I've done is I've just generated a series, right, from 0 to 40,000 in this case. I'll zoom in so people don't complain. So 0 to 40,000 increments of 1. So I have a table from 0 sort of descending to 40,000. So now you can see it's a whole number, right? So what I can do is I can actually, let's sort this ascending again. Let's go ahead and create a new column. And all we're going to do is say that this column is going to be equal to value. So it's just a duplicate of our value column, right? However, what I can do is I can switch this to be a data type of date. And now you can see that 0 corresponds to a date of December 30th, 1899, right? And on up it goes. So yes, dates really are just whole numbers. That's all they are. Internally, they're just stored as a whole number essentially, but that is what I guess it's really just a format that sits on top of it that translates it from, oh, you're a 0, so that my 0 reference date is December 30th, 1899, so that's what I'll display. Close enough. And so you can see that all the way up to 40,000, right? That gets us up to July 6, 2009, right? So that is why you can do things like subtract dates just to find out how many days between them they are. Now you have to do it kind of correctly, right? And we'll get to that in a second. But this begs the question, right? So can I put a negative number in here? And let's sort it ascending. So yes, you can. So you get December 29th, 1899. All right. Well, what if we put a million in here? So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and we'll put a million here. 0, 0, 0, zoom in one more 0. That is a million. There's also a million. What happens when you do that? Well, it's going to chug on it for a while. Okay, so now we have negative million, and it's January 1st, AD 100. But you notice, right? A lot of them are January 1st, year 100, right? So that's not a good thing. So let's go ahead and say sort descending. Okay, this looks fine, right? We're getting back different dates, and they're still incrementing up and stuff. So there's limits, right? It's got to be, less than more than a million positive and less than a million negative, right? Well, lucky for you, we don't have to sit around and figure out what the limits are because I've done that work already. If I can find my right notepad file. I'll paste that in there, hit enter. And so you can see here we have a upper value of 2,958,465 corresponds to December 31st, 9,999. And if we jump out of this and go the other direction, we have a number of minus 657,434 corresponds to Friday, January 1st, year 100. And these numbers should look familiar to you if you have a copy and have read the definitive guide to Power Query M, which I wrote the chapter on, the dates chapter. And at the beginning of that chapter, both of those dates appear because those are also the upper and lower limits for Power Query M. Although Power Query M returns a error, I believe, a conversion error, versus if I go one more in each direction here, you can see that 657,435 translates to the same date as negative 657,434. Can't talk today. I sort descending, so you can see that 2,958,466 returns the same date as 2,958,465, which I don't know. I think I'd maybe preferred to actually return an error versus an incorrect date. That kind of like the way Power Query does it. But that is the decisions that were made. Okay, so again, I mentioned earlier that you can do things like subtract dates, right? But you have to do it correctly. So here I have date, 2024, January 10th, 2024, and and I'm subtracting date 2024, January 1st, right? But if I use it this way, here's what it's going to return. It returns January 8th, 1900, 12 a.m. Now, why is that? Well, we go back to our table and let's switch this back to 0. And we so we're descending 0. So January 8th, 1900 corresponds to the number 9. And there are 9 days between January 1st and January 10th of any year, right? So that's what's happening there. It's returning a whole number date, but when it converts it to a date, it becomes January 8th, 1900. So to prevent this nonsense, right, we have to do it this way. I can find my card visual. Put this one in here. In this measure, the only difference here is that I'm subtracting the two dates, put parenthesis around that, order of operations, people, right? And I multiply it by 1, essentially to return it as a decimal or a whole number, whatever you want to do. And then it displays properly as 9 when you subtract them. Now, something else that's kind of cool is that you can actually turn a date and easily retrieve the actual underlying integer value for that date. And all you have to do is do this. So if I do a trunk on any date like today, right, it returns it as the actual integer value. So let's go in here, turn display units to none. So this came out to be a weirdly round number, I guess you could say. But yeah, today, September 15th, 2024, is actually 45,550. That's the integer value of today's date, essentially. So, a little bit of fun with dates. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.